Chapter 5. And you, Lord, in the beginning laid the foundation of the earth, and the heavens are the work of your hands. They will perish, but you remain, and they will all grow old like a garment. Like a cloak you will fold them up, and they will be changed. But you are the same, and your years will not fail. But to which of the angels has he ever said, "Sit at my right hand till I make your enemies your footstool"? Are they not all ministering spirits sent forth to minister for those who will inherit salvation? Hebrews chapter 1, 10 through 14. The image of his likeness. This book has been about the endeavor to show that creation begins as sound waves, i.e., longitudinal waves. That from the voice of God, it is possible to show that all creation sprang forth. But there is this nagging question. What was the image of his likeness that we were created in? We cannot successfully conclude that all things were created by God unless we can prove this final fact. There is one other important descriptor about image contained in the scriptures to help us unravel this mystery, and that is the description of Christ as the express image of God. The Bible gives us 4 descriptors for the character or personal image of God: light, life, love, and spirit. So when we talk about Jesus Christ being the express image of God, this means that Jesus was the exact copy of God himself, a clone. This ties very well with what we described Christ as earlier in the beginning of the book. And God said, "Let there be light," or Christ, an exact clone of himself, i.e., a mirror image. We derive the English word for character from the Greek word used in this context. A personality's character is not a physical state, but a spiritual state of being from where action and behavior is derived. This then sheds a little light on what it means that man, male and female, was created in the image of his likeness as well. Man was not an exact clone of God as Christ, but was in his image or character of light, life, love, and spirit. As a matter of fact, the whole creation described from Genesis chapter 1, 1 through 31 was also. Yet we were created a little higher than the rest and given dominion over all other creatures. I will get to all the science in a moment, but you simply must come to this understanding to realize who you are now compared to who you were originally created to be. You were a ministering spirit, made a little lower than the angels before the fall. This was the whole of creation in the beginning, angelic, etheric, made totally of light, in which there was no darkness. But the scripture says, "They shall be changed." So what happened? That is what I'm going to open your eyes to in this chapter. From this moment forward, your eyes will be open to the truth. You will now be able to see through the glass clearly. So if you are not now what you were in the beginning, then who are you, what are you, and where are you? You are the hologram. Everything you see is the hologram. It is a world of illusion. Then what or where is the real world? What is the most basic phenomenon of light we can discuss, but is looked past and never perceived by anyone? What are you looking at right now? An object, substance, matter. You are looking at nothing. All you see is the reflection of light off the page you are reading. You don't see words and you don't see paper. You only see reflected light off of the page. Your whole life, you only see the reflection of light off of what science describes as matter. What you cannot see is the absorption of light, and actually, you don't even see true light, only the reflection of it. So what's the difference, right? We know there is something there, so who cares how we describe it, huh? The truth is, it makes all the difference, and will definitely make a difference when the vesture is folded up like a garment and you become naked, standing in front of God. For then, your true color will show, light or darkness, the separation that existed from the beginning. Throughout this book, I have endeavored to show that there is no matter, and there is only waves and energy in the form of sound, light, or magnetism, otherwise called gravity. We cannot describe them adequately, as Feynman said, and there are no mathematical formulas to confine them. These forces are beyond the material world we are programmed to live in, and they are the scientific descriptions of the nature of light, word, and action. They are the scientific description of God. There are two worlds interlaced to one another, the world of reflection and the world of absorption. Science has only ever described the world of reflection. They know there is something else out there and all around us, but it is not describable in terms of matter. This is where faith becomes important. Now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Hebrews 1:1. Through faith we understand that the worlds were framed by the word of God, so that things which are seen were not made of things which do appear. Hebrews 11:3. Let's examine this difference a little more deeply. The world of reflection, transduction, a process by which one type of energy is converted to another via a transducer. Any process by which any cell in an organism converts one kind of signal or stimulus into another. I am going to add another definition to this which will become very important in a moment. Transduction is also the way energy from out of the spiritual world is converted into the carnal world in which we now exist to create what science has described as matter, at least the matter we can know from our five senses. First, take a look at any object. In this case, I will use a bird as an example. The object's color, shape, and appearance are all seen by your eyes. What is entering your eye is not the thing itself, merely the reflection of the waves of the visible spectrum of all energy. Not even all of those, mind you, only the waves that are being reflected. So where do the waves go? The reflected light is flipped upside down so that the waves are imprinting the image upside down inside your eye. Eventually, through something called cones and rods, the image is actually changed into nothing more than an electrical impulse by the process of transduction. These electrical impulses follow a nerve from each eye and crisscross in your brain to meet again in the back of your brain. These impulses become what you think you see as a bird. So, what about the sound of the bird? When the bird chirps, waves are being sent to your ear. The outside of your ear funnels the waves to vibrate the tympanic membrane, eardrum. This pressure wave then becomes a mechanical wave as it crosses three bones that then send the beat across your water-filled cochlea, literally, just like the beginning, sound moving across a water-filled space to create light, which is then turned into an electrical impulse traveling to the midsection of the brain where it is interpreted as a bird chirping. Yet, your brain is blind and deaf. It doesn't see or hear anything. All it is interpreting are generic impulses of electricity. This is the point where the energy from the impulse is transduced out of the carnal reality into the spiritual reality of the mind and knowledge. There is no little man inside your skull intercepting bird-tagged bolts of lightning and throwing them in the bird bin. So how do you know it's a bird? Memory plus association equals perception. Perception, the ability to perceive, to become aware of or identify by means of the senses. Perception tells us something is there, but how do I distinguish what it is? Memory, the mental capacity to recall facts, events, impressions, or previous experiences. The capacity to store information that is subject to recall. The information that is subject to recall is how you know anything. What if you were the first one to come across a bird? You would have to identify what it was, right? You would do that by giving it a name, right? Wouldn't you call it something? Thereby, afterwards, everyone who would ever come across that bird would know it is a bird. Everything you think you know was taught to you by someone else and repeatedly by everyone else before you. Everything that is out there in the universe only exists in your mind, not your brain, and what you know it to be is based on information, which, as we described before, exists fully on par with matter and energy, but is neither matter nor energy. This same process goes for all your senses. When you think you are touching something, all you are really feeling is the magnetic energy from the movement of the electrical particles repulsing the same energy from your body. You never actually touch anything. That material is a type of medium which we call solid, liquid, gas, plasma, etc. If the molecules were not so tightly packed, you would go right through the material and could literally walk through walls, like you are doing in air or water whose molecules are not fixed by strong surface tension. What you think is touch is only pressure between fields of energy. Don't believe me? Try pushing two south-facing magnets together. They repel, right? The same principle happens when you try to touch anything. This is what displacement truly is. When you sink into the tub of water, you are repelling all of the molecules of water away from you, and the same principle happens in air. The only difference between the states of matter is the fixation of the molecules within the geometric structure of the medium they form. Let's get back to our bird. We see it and we hear it, so we know it is there, right? But what if I cut the nerve between the back of your brain and your eyes, and you couldn't see it anymore? Would it still be there? If I didn't tell you something was there, you would not know it was there, and nothing would exist. What if you had no nerve connecting your brain to your five senses? You would know you existed, but nothing else would. So how then, in that case, would you define who or what you are? You see, from the beginning of your life until right now, you thought reality, as I mentioned in the first point of the hypothesis, and matter was based on what you could perceive from your five senses, or what you could observe in a laboratory. Let's look at this world of reflection another way by looking at dreams. I will talk about this from personal experience. I am a sleepwalker. One time, when I was little, my mom told me about one of my experiences. They had some family over to play pinoquet. It was late, and I had gone to sleep. I came downstairs into the kitchen and started going through the refrigerator and talking to everyone. At first, no one knew I was asleep. But then, my mom asked, "Samuel, what are you doing?" I don't remember what she said my response was, but she replied, "Why don't you go back to bed?" So I walked back upstairs and went to bed. I had no idea what had happened until she told me, but I've done this many times in my life with some pretty weird occurrences and woke up in strange places, once even outside. In a dream, people will have the value and function of their five senses. I've read books in my dreams and am able to recall them when I wake up. I've heard people talking to me and can recall the song or conversation. In every one of those episodes, I was in a dream world, obviously, to the waking world around me. So, what does that tell you about the knowledge of supposed reality based on your five senses? Everyone dreams, including blind, deaf, and mute people. Everything that you have done in real life, you do also in your dreams and more. So which world is real? Sometimes, upon waking, the waking world for a few seconds is still the dream world I am waking from, and I see it with my eyes wide open. When you wake up, is the dream world still there? When you open your eyes, is the bird in your dreams still there? Yes, they are both in your mind all the time. Both are only information that only exists in your memory. Before I move on, let me use one more example. You turn on a television and what do you see? That same stupid bird is there again. So you are really mad now, and you turn the TV off. Now is the bird still there? The object of the bird is not inside the TV, right? All you saw was electrical impulses blipped across a plastic screen. Does the TV have a mind? But it is no different than your brain. It only receives electrical impulses sent to it. It has no idea what it is playing, is a bird, a truck, or a rainbow. Without the mind, your brain would act in similar fashion. It is no different than a TV box that your mind, the brain of your spiritual self, watches. Hold that thought. So how is it that bird can be on TV, in my dreams, and in what I have always called reality? The reason they are all the same is because all you ever see is the reflection of light. You have never, ever, ever actually seen the object itself. They are all the same false image contained within the program of the hologram we call reality. The image only exists in your brain as electrical impulse, and in your mind as information. The reason you think it is real is because you were taught by everyone else who was taught to believe it is real. This is the world you think you live in. This is the world of matter, of particles, of Marx, Darwin, communism, democracy, materialistic philosophy, atheism, agnosticism, and paper money. This is the coat of skin, Genesis 3:21, that now covers you. It is worthless, and it is a fraud. The current idea of reality in which we exist is a lie. It is the world of reflection. Reflection, the act of reflecting to cast back light, heat, sound, or energy from a surface. So what happens when the signal is cut? Hold that thought. The world of absorption. Therefore, there must be a completely separate surface or face of everything. Genesis 1:2 stated, "And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters." As was described earlier in the book, this means that the Spirit of God became the surface of the all. This then became the sort of template from which everything that is the hologram would shadow and mimic. Not all light is reflected, some of it is absorbed. Think back to the chapter on geometry and waves embedding other waves. Harmony adds and absorbs while dissonance reflects and subtracts. Everything that is true matter, which we have shown is built up from waves, is nothing more than a wave nest. As new waves hit the object, they will be absorbed and remain, thereby bringing more life, or they will be cast out or reflected because they are dissonant. The more dissonant you become, the more you reflect. The more you reflect, the darker your spirit becomes. The darker your spirit becomes, the faster your image will fade. This is similar to the process we call eating. You eat an object called food. You aren't really eating a particle of food. What you see, smell, taste, or feel, the hologram. You are eating the wave nest. All of the waves that form that image are broken down, and in your colon, you will absorb the parts you can use and reflect the parts you cannot as waste. In many cases, in order to digest some materials, it costs you life points in order to be able to pass that material out of your body. Think back to the beginning when God divided the day from night, or light from darkness. The reason you can't see the world of absorption is because you were taught all your life how to only see and perceive reflected light. This is why you cannot see God and the spiritual reality of everything. It absorbs all light because it exists as a manifestation of light. You, right now, are a manifestation of darkness, wrapped in a coat of skin. This is why we see darkness in space. The objects we think we see are all reflecting light. All the other 95% of matter we cannot see that science knows is out there is true matter. It absorbs all light. The same goes for black holes. The photosynthesis process is caused by absorption of light, not the reflection of light, which is why the plants don't need the sun to grow in the beginning. Then shall the righteous shine forth as the sun in the kingdom of their Father. Whoever has ears to hear, let him hear. Matthew 13:43. And the city had no need of the sun, neither of the moon to shine in it, for the glory of God did lighten it, and the Lamb is the light thereof. Revelation 21:23. And there shall be no night there, and they need no candle, neither light of the sun, for the Lord God giveth them light, and they shall reign forever and ever. Revelation 22:5. This is how it was in the original creation. Remember the thoughts I told you to hold earlier? Your mind is watching the TV program of your hologram. Your mind is either light or darkness. So what happens when the nerve signal between the two worlds is cut off? The same thing that happens when the signal to your TV is turned off. No more image. The events in those scriptures are not going to come to pass until this image is folded up and changed like a vesture. Once the signal is turned off to our perceived reality, there will be no more hologram, no more virtual matter. True matter will exist in the spiritual realm, the foundation upon which everything came forth in creation. Then we shall clearly see a world we never knew existed. He that soweth the good seed is the Son of Man. The field is the world. The good seed are the children of the kingdom, but the tares are the children of the wicked one. The enemy that sowed them is the devil. The harvest is the end of the world, and the reapers are the angels. As therefore the tares are gathered and burned in the fire, so shall it be in the end of this world. The Son of Man shall send forth his angels, and they shall gather out of his kingdom all things that offend, and them which do iniquity, and shall cast them into a furnace of fire. There shall be wailing and gnashing of teeth. Then shall the righteous shine forth as the sun in the kingdom of their Father. Who hath ears to hear, let him hear. Jesus speaking, Matthew 13:37 through 43. This world that Jesus is referring to is the hologram. The weeping and gnashing of teeth will be the natural consequence of those who refuse to believe in anything other than the material world they see with their eyes. God doesn't have to curse you. You have already cursed yourself. The conclusion of you is the consequence of your own thoughts and actions. God made everything perfect. We're the ones messing it up. Before I move on to the scientific and experimental proof of these two worlds and the transducer that exists between them, I am going to lay down one more scripture first. The lamp of the body is the eye. If therefore your eye is good, your whole body will be full of light. But if your eye is bad, your whole body will be full of darkness. If therefore the light that is in you is darkness, how great is that darkness? No one can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or he will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and money. Jesus speaking, Matthew 6:22 through 24. Money is the material world of the hologram, the world of reflection. You cannot serve, see, exist, manipulate, work, till, or subdue both worlds. You are either light or you are darkness. In our original creation, the image of his likeness, we were only light beings, no coats of skin. Our knowledge was only from the perfect God. We were magnetic bodies spoken into being by an electromotive sound wave. We were the embodiment of the absorption of the whole spectrum, infinity hertz. Today, our five senses only know the reflection of the waves. So, as a consequence of that one single event that changed the whole world, we cannot see, hear, know our formal selves, except by the spirit of our original creation. This will be proven by experimental science in a moment. And this is the judgment. The light has come into the world, and people loved the darkness rather than the light, because their works were evil. For everyone who does wicked things hates the light and does not come to the light, lest his works should be exposed. Jesus speaking, John 3:19 and 20. So, who are the ones who refuse to believe in any other world, light, than the world of reflection, darkness? Atheists, agnostics, and unbelievers. And let's get real, there are millions of churchians who try to serve both worlds and fall into this group as well. Why do they refuse to open their eyes? Because the moment they do, they know that everything will be brought into judgment. They will have to openly admit they were deceived and living a lie. They will lose all their fig leaves and be standing naked before God, and it is a fearful thing. Some people are too weak to handle the truth. The one who walks in the darkness does not know where he is going. Jesus speaking, John 12:35. The life of materialism is the life lived without purpose, literally without end. There is only one ending, and that is for the children of light who are in this world but not of this world, and that end is the kingdom of heaven. The rest will find no ending to this world. They will live the pain, suffering, agony, strife, conflict, war, lack, envy, and constant longing for something more for eternity, which longing exists in every one of the lonely hearts of children of darkness. When Jesus Christ speaks about light and darkness, this is the quality of which he speaks, the two worlds. If the light within thee be dark, how great is that darkness? Science says there is some mysterious form of dark matter that we can't see, and that it must be there because 90% of the mass of the universe is missing. Science calls this matter dark because they can't see it, but they know it is there. Christians say we know. God is there because without Him, 90% of my life is missing, but we can't see God. Science is describing the cod realm, but we call it dark matter and dark energy because we think the one single octave of visible light we see is light, when truly it is only a reflection of light. There is hundreds of years' worth of science and observable phenomena to back this up. Do not think that the small amount of experimentation I am about to show you is in any way a complete reference in scientific literature to the existence of these two worlds. The phantom leaf effect. We will eventually discover that consciousness itself is a kind of energy that is integrally related to the cellular expression of the physical body. In addition, the recognition of our relationship to these higher frequency energy systems will ultimately lead to a fusion of religion and science as scientists begin to recognize the spiritual dimension of human beings and the laws of expression of the life force. And this important etheric energy/matter insight might also lead scientists to recognize the relationship between humankind and its creator. What we must realize before we talk about the phantom leaf effect is that just like cells differentiate in the human body to serve particular function in the organism, so to do particles in the universal hologram. What science calls atoms and molecules are nothing more than fields of energy of interacting waves that have become frozen and differentiated for a specific purpose in the organism of creation. Therefore, what we call matter is actually a physical manifestation of an energy template. This template consists of several energy levels, or more appropriately, layers: the mind, the emotions, information, the carnal, the spiritual, and the will. We must also think about this in connection with the hologram. Holograms are based on properties of energy interference patterns, as I spoke briefly about earlier in the book. Perhaps each of the layers mentioned above may be likened to the laser beams. Could we perfect a hologram that used more than 3 light beams? What if we used 7 layers? What sort of image would we get? Regardless of these speculations, the manifestation of particles, virtual matter, all of them are nothing more than interference patterns. Refer back to our definitions about waves earlier in the book to refresh your memory if necessary. Hopefully now you are beginning to see how the illusion of our present macroscopic world is melting away. What happens if you cut the signal? The hologram disappears, and particles no longer exist. They are false descriptions of something that likewise does exist, the spiritual, etheric, creation. This is why I added Appendix B, because when you try to superimpose the description of science onto reality, it doesn't work. It isn't that the math needs to become more difficult, or we need to discover that God particle. The problem rests in the fact that we have never truly described anything, but the hologram, and it isn't reality. Perhaps each of the layers mentioned above may be likened to the laser beams. Could we perfect a hologram that used more than 3 light beams? What if we used 7 layers? What sort of image would we get? Regardless of these speculations, the manifestation of particles, virtual matter, all of them are nothing more than interference patterns. Refer back to our definitions about waves earlier in the book to refresh your memory if necessary. Hopefully now, you are beginning to see how the illusion of our present macroscopic world is melting away. What happens if you cut the signal? The hologram disappears, and particles no longer exist. They are false descriptions of something that likewise does exist, the spiritual, etheric creation. This is why I added Appendix B, because when you try to superimpose the description of science onto reality, it doesn't work. It isn't that the math needs to become more difficult, or we need to discover that God particle. The problem rests in the fact that we have never truly described anything but the hologram, and it isn't reality. In the 1940s, Harold S. Burt, neuroanatomist at Yale University, began to study the fields of energy surrounding plants and animals, with particular interest in when they first originated in embryogenesis. Bert discovered that the organism was destined to follow prescribed energy templates generated by the individual's electromagnetic field. These fields can be shown by electrophotography, which was pioneered by Russian researcher Semyon Kirlian. Everything that we call matter gives off a coronal discharge. Here is the image of the coronal discharge of a leaf. This can also be performed on any living organism. The phantom leaf effect is apparent when a portion of the leaf is cut off and photographed. The picture will reveal a coronal discharge of a whole intact leaf. The same will happen with amputated geckos and other animals. This has been reproduced hundreds of times in many different ways, and always the same result. What does this mean? This shows that what we see as the leaf is not the real leaf. It is only the incarnate manifestation of the energy template. When the hologram is cut away, a whole intact version of the leaf still exists. That is the part of reality we cannot see with our eyes. But through electrophotography and spectroscopy, we can get a glimpse. Now, do you see what you are eating? Information packets, which we call words, carry the same power. Whatever you take in as energy is being played back for your spiritual mind to view on the TV of your brain. This information will be stored as memory, and it will become your master of perception. Your actions are the direct result of your memory. Pavlov's dogs showed this result very clearly, as well as numerous other experiments like Albert Bandura's experiments in the 60s that showed children can learn just by watching, which in reality is how we all learn. You can bite off any portion of that leaf and it will exist until the whole energy template, the wave nest, enters your system and you absorb it into your body. Then, the leaf's energy will become your energy and vice versa. This is how it was in the beginning in our original creation. We were absorbed by God, and He was absorbed by us. We were one in our likeness with our Creator and the whole creation. Without the signal from the energy template, the leaf would not exist. Without the spiritual template as described in Genesis chapter 1, as spoken into existence by God and scientifically proven and verified throughout this book, you would not exist. Before the fall, our eyes saw the energy template of everything. We saw reality, the harmony and the Creator, the music and light of all creation. Today, all we see in all matter is the temporally coherent interference patterns of the representative hologram. The universe itself follows this same principle. The 5 through 10% of matter we see in the universe is the temporally self-repeating interference pattern. The other 90 through 95% is the true creation. What causes stars to die? The signal is cut off. So what happens? A black hole forms and begins to swallow up the virtual matter. As we mentioned earlier in the book, at the end of chapter 3, there is death energy in the universe. So what is death? Death is separation from any source of energy. So when this corruptible shall have put on incorruption, and this mortal shall have put on immortality, then shall be brought to pass the saying that is written, death is swallowed up in victory. 1 Corinthians 15:54. Since the incarnate being is a mere manifestation of this etheric energy template, and you are given this template at conception, then there must be some pathway or some kind of network-like nervous system to connect the two, right? Remember the definition of transducer? Yes, there is, and this connection has been studied by Eastern medicine for centuries and recently validated by Western science. The movement of the etheric energy through the EM energy template out of the spiritual and into the physiological/cellular systems of the body is channeled through what are called meridians, chakras, and nadis. They function very much like the central nervous system and appear to parallel the lymphatic system. These systems can be validated to exist by the body's mysterious self-healing mechanisms. The process by which we transform matter, chemicals, into energy, electrical impulse, is called transduction. the interaction between the EM energy template and the virtual matter hologram. Without this process going on all the time, seemingly on autopilot at the cell level, you simply would not heal from any of even the slightest trauma. These processes are intensely and thoroughly described and experimentally validated by Dr. Robert Becker and Gary Selden in their book titled Body Electric, Electromagnetism, and the Foundation of Life. Part of the process is described as the current of injury. Further scientific progress is being made towards seeing the spiritual realms. Until recently, the worlds of X-ray and radio astronomy were unseen to astronomers until those technologies were developed, but they were always there. There were a series of studies on the anatomic nature of the meridian system in animals which were carried out in Korea during the 1960s by a team of researchers headed by Professor Kim Bong-han. Kim did experimental work with the acupuncture meridians of rabbits and other animal models. He injected radioactive P32, an isotope of phosphorus, into a rabbit acupoint and followed uptake of the substance into surrounding tissue. Utilizing the technique of micro-autoradiography, he discovered that the P32 was actively taken up along fine duct-like tubule system, approximately 0.5 through 1.5 microns in diameter, which followed the path of the classical acupuncture meridians. Concentrations of P32 in tissue immediately adjacent to the meridians or near the acupoint injected were negligible. When P32 was deliberately injected into a nearby vein, little to none could be detected in the meridian network. This finding suggested that the meridian system was independent of the vascular network. More recent research by French researcher Pierre de Vernejou and others have confirmed Kim's findings in humans. Radioactive technetium-99m was injected into the acupoints of patients, and the isotope's uptake was followed by gamma camera imaging. De Vernejou found that the radioactive technetium-99m migrated along classical Chinese acupuncture meridian pathways for a distance of 30 centimeters in 4 to 6 minutes. Injection of the isotope into random points on the skin, as well as deliberate venous and lymphatic channel injection, were unable to demonstrate similar results, suggesting that the meridians were a unique and separate morphological pathway. Based on many experiments, Kim concluded that the meridian system not only interlinked within itself, but appeared to interconnect with all cell nuclei of the tissues. In order to find the point at which this nuclear/cellular link was formed in embryogenesis, Kim began to study, in different species, the time at which these meridians were formed. In embryological studies reminiscent of Dr. Burt, Kim found that within the embryonic chick, the meridian ducts were formed within 15 hours of conception. This is most interesting because even the most rudimentary organs have not yet formed at this stage. In view of the fact that the completed spatial orientation of the meridian system occurs earlier than organ formation, this would suggest that the functioning of the acupuncture meridian system exerts an influence upon the migration and spatial orientation of the internal organs. Because the meridians connect to each cell's genetic control center, the acupuncture meridian system may also play an important role in both replication and differentiation, specialization of all cells in the body. We come to the conclusion that the spatial organization of growth from embryogenesis through adulthood is guided by an energy field template known as the etheric body. Thus, the organized energetic structure of the etheric body precedes and guides the development of the physical body. So, everyone who thinks that the mother has a right to abort a baby, the EM template of that baby, the spiritual essence of the child, is already formed and exerting an influence on the physical development of the organism within 15 hours of conception. Abortion is murder. Now, after you let that feeling of disgust sink all the way in, think back to the experiments of Burt. The brain and spinal cord are set up much the same way, along the electrical axis. This axis was found already developed in the unfertilized egg of the mother. He also discovered the same pattern in plant seedlings. Therefore, the development from the embryo to adulthood of the holographic virtual matter You is built and self-sustained because of the EM energy template that was existent before you were conceived. This is your etheric body. Thus, the spiritual etheric body of the All, Father, Christ, Holy Spirit, the mind, body, and soul of Yahweh, the one God, precedes and guides the development of the physical plane, all matter, seen and unseen. The connection between the two worlds has been studied and verified by the physical sciences. So, the hierarchy of the levels of organization may go something like this, from highest to lowest, from information to will to mind, to emotions to spiritual to carnal. The substance of the world you can't see is also called subtle matter and/or astral matter, and can be described in the following way. Subtle matter, especially astral matter, is very magnetic. Movement at this level is relatively fluid compared to the dense physical plane. There are forms, but they are mercurial. They tend to pulsate, and movement can be in more than one direction at the same time. It is, after all, another dimension of existence and must be understood on its own terms. One of the discoveries that researchers in psychology and medicine will eventually make someday is that non-ferrous matter also has the magnetic properties which ferrous matter does. This includes the matter which goes into the substance of human thought and feeling. It is not the type of magnetism which attracts iron filings, of course, but it is most definitely a species of magnetism. It attracts other substances in harmony with it. To those who don't believe, what happens when you cut off the signal? You don't exist. What is it that the spread of atheism, agnosticism, materialism, Big Bang, capitalism, communism, Darwinism, and relativity are doing to the minds of children and humanity? To deny the signal is to turn it off. Without it, you don't exist. One day you will wake up and be standing before Jesus Christ, and you will see reality. The dream will be over, all your cool will be naught, and then what will you say? There shall be wailing and gnashing of teeth. Jesus will say, I sent you prophets, I sent you writers, witnesses, laymen, scientists, and former atheists. I created phenomena that point directly to me. In your dream, I spoke to you and you refused to listen. I came myself and performed miracles, had them recorded and passed down by witnesses, and you refused to acknowledge my presence in your life. I wanted you so much, and loved you and died for you, so you could be with me in my kingdom. And you refused me. You didn't want me then, and you don't want me now. I did everything for you, and you rejected it all for love of darkness. I clothed you in a coat of skin, so you would have time to find me, all to no avail. Now, you shall have your desire. He that believeth not is condemned already. John 3:18. Therefore, he that believeth is already in the Lamb's book of life. Either way, the dream you are living in is manipulated by your spirit, whether it is light or darkness, and you attract circumstances to you as the above quote mentioned, whether you believe it or not. The process of being able to manipulate your dream is called lucid dreaming. Lucid dreaming is being able to alter the direction of your dream. It is a sort of consciousness you have while dreaming. Of course, this is what miracles are, and also the institution free will, the ability to alter the direction of your life so you can spend your life in the kingdom or in hell, whatever you choose. Lucidity, clearness of thought or style, having a presumed capacity to perceive the truth directly and instantaneously. In this sense, from the beginning of the creation forward, even after the fall, you have had, in this dream, the ability to perceive the truth directly and instantaneously. How you accept or deny that truth, i.e., your conscience, is up to you. In this sense, you can control your sleeping world and your waking world. Your waking world, of course, is the sleep world of your spiritual self. The term was coined by Frederick von Eden in the Proceedings of the Society for Psychical Research, Volume 26, 1913. The manipulation of the physical realm of darkness, reflection by the children of light, true Christians, or miracles, becomes the observational proof of the etheric realm of God's true creation. Genesis chapter 1 then becomes the first part of the true secret given to mankind by God. The second and third parts will be discussed in the next 2 books. Truly, all knowledge, all true philosophy, and the highest ideals mankind can obtain were recorded a little over 6,000 years ago in a single chapter of 31 verses that is summarized in the first verse of the Holy Bible. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. There is nothing in scientific literature that can come close to comparing. Occam's razor, the debate is over. See what great love the Father has lavished on us, that we should be called children of God. And that is what we are. The reason the world does not know us is that it did not know Him. Dear friends, now we are children of God, and what we will be has not yet been made known. But we know that when Christ appears, we shall be like Him, for we shall see Him as He is. Beloved, believe not every spirit, but test the spirits whether they are of God, because many false prophets have gone out into the world. This is how you can recognize the Spirit of God. Every spirit that acknowledges that Jesus Christ has come in the flesh is from God. But every spirit that does not acknowledge Jesus is not from God. This is the spirit of the Antichrist, which you have heard is coming, and even now is already in the world. You, dear children, are from God and have overcome them, because the one who is in you is greater than the one who is in the world. They are from the world, therefore they speak from the world, and the world listens to them. We are from God. Whoever knows God listens to us. Whoever is not from God does not listen to us. By this we know the spirit of truth and the spirit of error. In this was manifested the love of God toward us, that God sent His only begotten Son into the world, that we might live through Him. This is love, not that we loved God, but that He loved us and sent His Son as an atoning sacrifice for our sins. 1 John 3, 1 and 2. Also 1 John 4, 1 through 6, 9 and 10. Conclusion. In conclusion, it is now obvious that all matter that takes up space and has mass is created from non-matter, waves of energy, and those waves come from one source, light. And light, by the experiment sonoluminescence, comes from sound, which in the beginning before light even existed as a physical reality, comes from the spoken word of God, who is Jesus Christ. All things were created by Him, and without Him was not anything made that was made. There are many statements that should be realized by the reader in summary of this work. I believe the 2 most important are: 1. That since God spoke all things into existence, and humanity was created in His image and likeness, then it is obvious that our words create the universe, the circumstances, and the life experience by each and every one of us, not only on an individual basis, but collectively as well. 2. There is a realm of reality that we, as now material beings, have been reprogrammed mentally not to be able to see with our physical eyes, and at some point after our creation, we became blind to. This book is about separating the tares from the wheat. In essence, scientists are right when they say God cannot be proven by science, because the science taught in schools today is mixed with theories of humanistic religiosity that are intended to destroy the existence of God and the very mention of the name of Jesus Christ from the minds of men. Otherwise, real science has been proving and validating the existence of God from the beginning of time, as is proven in this treatise. These theories, relativity and evolution, have been cast into the fire so that which can remain, the golden truth, will become the apples of knowledge to open our eyes to reality, and in the future will be taught in school. If it is a theory that is not built on the same four-cornered foundation of this book, it is worthless to the advancement of mankind. The reign of the fraudulent theories of evolution, relativity, and the Big Bang are now thoroughly invalidated. So much more could be said, and has been said by men more qualified than I, to refute their claims that I suppose I would never stop writing until every page from every tree had been filled with the sum of their demise. Future generations will look back while studying history and laugh those ideas to scorn. They are nothing but pure fiction, and the mind that remains open to their philosophies and implications remains in the everlasting darkness they have chosen for themselves. I say darkness because their theories cannot explain an unending list of phenomena that they selectively choose to ignore, ridicule, and not mention in their classrooms. Yet, this scientific proof contains room and is fearless in recognizing and giving not only an explanation, but a scientific one. Surely you can see that this work scientifically validates all of the phenomena that current prejudiced, dogmatic, and closed-minded science ignores, particularly magic, miracles, witchcraft, near-death experiences, ghosts, angels, visions, prophecies, healings, and a host of other supposedly unexplainable phenomena that have been personally witnessed and experienced by billions of people from the beginning of time. The only reason it is called unexplainable is because the explanation is something beyond materialism, truly communism. Again, as I stated at the outset, if a theory cannot explain the unexplainable, then that theory is unattainable. All of the information needed to explain anything already exists, if you are astute enough and zealous enough to ascertain its true meaning without prejudice. The truth will never accept lies. Light will never accept darkness. This is why the evolution and materialist philosophy has come to a screeching halt in the minds of the openly educated and highly enlightened. The next book of the Episteme Scientia series will examine the second and third most important events to happen to the human race after its creation, that is, the fall of mankind and Noah's flood. I pray that the Holy Spirit of God has opened your mind and is able to touch your soul, and you become enlightened with the light of the living. You must be born again. However far-reaching our intellectual achievements and however advanced our knowledge of creation, without faith and a sense of our own spirituality, there is only isolation and despair, and the human race is a lost cause. Jane Hawking,